The storm that struck the mountains outside Utah arrived with almost no warning as freezing rain turned into violent snowfall within minutes while families traveling through the narrow canyon roads fought desperately to maintain control of their vehicles across sheets of black ice, and among them was 9-year-old Sophie Walker sitting quietly in the back seat of her father's SUV clutching a stuffed rabbit against her chest while her parents argued softly about whether they should stop for the night before continuing toward her grandmother's cabin higher in the mountains because visibility had become almost impossible and snow buried the road faster than the plows could clear it. But before anyone could decide, a sudden crack echoed above the canyon as part of the mountain gave way under the weight of fresh snow, sending a massive avalanche crashing directly toward the highway with terrifying force while drivers screamed and slammed on brakes as walls of ice and snow swallowed vehicles whole within seconds. And when emergency crews finally reached the disaster scene hours later, they found crushed cars buried beneath layers of frozen debris scattered across the canyon floor while rescuers worked through the night pulling survivors from twisted metal and collapsed snowbanks. But eventually the operation shifted from rescue to recovery because temperatures continued dropping and survival beneath the avalanche became nearly impossible after so many hours trapped in the freezing darkness. While Sophie's parents were found unconscious inside the remains of their SUV, but there was no sign of Sophie anywhere despite desperate searching, and by dawn rescue commanders quietly prepared grieving families for the worst until a volunteer search handler named Rachel Moreno arrived with a black Labrador rescue dog named Ash because although official teams had nearly given up, Rachel refused to leave after hearing a child was still missing somewhere beneath the avalanche field. And as Ash moved carefully across the frozen debris, his behavior suddenly changed near a collapsed section of snow where he froze completely before releasing a loud aggressive bark that echoed through the canyon while nearby rescuers exchanged uncertain looks because thermal equipment showed nothing beneath the ice, and one exhausted firefighter quietly admitted they had already searched that exact area hours earlier. But Ash refused to stop barking, instead digging frantically through the snow with bleeding paws while Rachel watched the dog with growing urgency because she had worked with Ash for nearly 6 years and knew he only reacted that way when he detected a living human beneath debris. And moments later rescuers finally joined him, shoveling through layers of ice and packed snow until someone suddenly heard the faintest sound coming from below, a weak child's cough buried deep beneath the avalanche, and panic instantly turned back into hope as crews dug faster until they uncovered a tiny air pocket trapped between crushed branches and frozen debris where Sophie lay unconscious beneath layers of snow, her skin pale and body nearly frozen but somehow still alive, while Ash immediately pushed forward, licking the little girl's face and barking excitedly as medics rushed her toward heated emergency tents because against every expectation the child had survived nearly 10 hours trapped inside the avalanche thanks to the small pocket of air that protected her from complete suffocation. And later doctors admitted Sophie's condition was critical from severe hypothermia, but they believed the vibrations and noise from Ash's relentless barking may have helped keep the unconscious girl responsive long enough for rescuers to reach her, while Sophie's parents broke down crying beside the hospital bed, unable to understand how their daughter survived when so many others did not. And days later, after Sophie finally woke up fully, she barely remembered the avalanche or the darkness beneath the snow because the only thing she clearly remembered was hearing a dog barking somewhere far above her while everything around her felt cold and silent. And months later, when Rachel brought Ash to visit Sophie at home, the little girl wrapped her arms around the black Labrador and whispered softly that his barking sounded like someone calling her back from the dark, while Ash rested his head gently in her lap as if he already knew that sometimes hope only survives because one loyal dog refuses to stop searching.